Stefan is hands down, without dispute, unanimously agreed to be the worst person you know. Oh, you haven't met Stefan yet? You're not sure? Nah, you'd be sure. You'd be certain that you'd met this egotistical, misogynistic, puffed up barnacle wart of a person. He's the worst person I know. He's the worst person all my friends know. He's the worst person you know, even if you don't know him yet. Stefan and my friend M were dating. They met during COVID, and Stefan was the worst person M knew, though she didn't know that yet. I was hanging out with M at Poison Girl, and Stefan came to join us to hang out with M, and he said, for help writing a letter to his neighbor. Before he arrived, M said that she and another of his friends joked about getting Stefan a shirt that read, "You're wrong, and here's why." Side note, you might be wondering how the worst person you know has friends at all, much less dates people on the reg. And I don't know the answer to that question. I found him off-putting from the moment I met him, but apparently people find him attractive. Is he a sociopath? Is he narcissistic? Possibly, yes. But I hear extreme confidence can be charismatic, and who is more confident than a mediocre white man with money? So Stefan arrives at the bar. He's tall, thin, with short brown hair, and a face like a Trump TV ad. His mouth is a permanent smirk. He sits down at the picnic table with a legal pad and pen. Since he had wanted help writing the letter, I asked him what the letter's for and what he's got so far. Here's the story he tells me. He was outside his house one day, and he saw the next-door neighbor's mother walking the next-door neighbor's dog. Stefan has not seen a dog he does not want to pet. Bulletin, the worst person you know says something relatable. And so he goes to pet the dog, but the next-door neighbor's mother says no. Her daughter does not want strangers petting the dog. This annoys Stefan. He wants to pet the dog. He's not allowed to pet the dog. His annoyance rises through self-righteous anger to reach the heights of condescending neighborly kindness. And so he decides to do something about it. See, the neighbor has mental issues. This is what Stefan tells me. She is agoraphobic, maybe, terminally shy. She's never outside. That's why her mother walks the dog. And somehow, this is why Stefan can't pet her dog. He's convinced that he just needs to invite her over to a group dinner or a neighborly social gathering with him and a few other people so as to not make it strange. And then she'll meet him, and once she's met him, she'll surely let him pet her dog. So the letter. I start to read what he's written out longhand, and the opening salutation is, "Dear crazy neighbor." I don't think that's going to achieve what you're looking for, I say. Nope, it's exactly what I want to say, he tells me. Insulting her is what you want to do? But it's not an insult, he argues. I'm just making a joke. She'll think it's funny. At this point, I'm beginning to think that Stefan doesn't actually want advice or help, but for us to simply be witnesses as he writes out his grand plan. I'm correct, but I don't know this then. At the time, all I know is I'm watching a man plan how to manipulate and gaslight a woman purely because he felt snubbed from petting a dog, an activity which, as everyone knows, is an inalienable human right. M said, Stefan believes that the most intelligent person in any room, and whenever I started making an argument, it was obvious he was only listening closely enough to mark what points he should demolish first, or attempt to demolish. He's not actually a very good arguer. He is, however, a very good pisser-offer. I can't remember how the rest of that encounter went, except I left Poison Girl with my adrenaline pumping, my heart racing, knowing I just met someone who I never wanted to see again. But thing is that I trust and love my friend M. And this asshole Stefan was important to her, so I okayed the possibility of interacting with him again. She saw something in him, and I guess I wanted to see if I could see it too. The second time we argued was at Rudyard's. I went there to meet up with Em and Stefan, and we were joined by another friend of Em's who worked at Rudyard's. I did not directly talk to Stefan, which meant the night was going okay, until he started telling a story about some guys he knew who went skydiving. I'll be upfront here and say, I don't know if this was something that really happened or a joke that Stefan refused to let on was a joke. Either way, it wasn't a funny story. Not surprising, because Stefan isn't funny, simply cruel. The story involved the skydiving guys and a cat. These guys were going skydiving, they had their own gear, they got on the plane, and the airport cat was on the plane. You know the airport cat, right? Every airport has one? About this time, I should have figured out the story was BS, but it doesn't matter because the meat of the story, the crux of it, the part that is supposed to be amusing is this. 1, the cat has pissed on one of the guy's parachutes. 2, the guy whose parachute was pissed on picks up the cat and throws it out of the plane. Don't laugh. That's not the funny part. 3, the guy jumps out of the plane. And 4, while falling, has the cat find him midair and latch onto his face. 5, the guy throws the cat into the air again, and it comes back to his face again. 6, he throws the cat a final time, and that's it. Cat's gone. Guy lands with bloody scratches over his face, and we all have a good laugh. When I told Stefan in the midst of the story that I hoped the cat shredded the parachute and the man fell to his death, he grew offended. He didn't see why this story wasn't funny, couldn't understand why I wanted the man to die for what he had done to a cat, or how I could condemn this man for what he did to an animal. I told him I didn't want to argue. I just wanted to let it be. I wanted to not have a fight right in Rudyard's with Em and her friend there. And he let it be for a moment. But then Em and her friend went inside to look at some art, and Stefan couldn't help needling me again about the man and the cat and which of the two deserved to die. And when I refused to argue anymore because I knew there was no point, he raised his voice. He called me a pussy for not standing up for my beliefs. He called me a coward because I wouldn't argue, and I wouldn't argue because I knew I would lose the argument because he was right, and clearly I wasn't smart enough to hang with the big intellectual dog that he was. When Em came back to the table, she could sense something was wrong. I told her I was leaving and left with Stefan still spewing insults at my back. I don't know if this fully conveys why he is the worst person you know. There are much worse things he's done, and these are only his actions that directly affected me. And truthfully, they are minor things. But believe me when I say that Stefan is the worst person you know. And if you're lucky, you'll never meet him.
What's up, nerds? Obligatory. Like I said, I'm gonna do this every time, but it's nice to, go after like a tall person reading. You know what I'm saying? Top knob? Oh, top. Oh, this one. Yes. Yes, dude, I did it. Fuck yeah. I was going to say, it feels nice to do this after a reader who is tall. Because, it's nice to be around people of like reasonable height. I'm sorry, short people. Also, there was a mention in there of mediocre white men. Speaking of white people, I'm in a band. One of the reasons why I was asked to host this, I'm in a band called Rahul Rao and the Whites. I am Rahul Rao and they are the Whites. It's a pretty good time. I don't know. We got stuff coming up. But give us a follow on Instagram. Follow us on Bandcamp. We have a thing on YouTube we did a video for the NPR Tiny Desk concert. It's a song about white people, so like, I'm sorry, white people. Like, just straight up, it's not nice to you. But if you're not white, you get it. And speaking of white, our next story is called Montrose. And it's written by, okay. Claire, are you in here? Claire, can you pronounce your last name for me? Yeah. Okay, I need you to, come on, with gusto. Do you not, listen, I understand the struggle having a weird pronouncing name. I'm gonna do it right. In defiance of white people, I will do this right. Well, how do you pronounce this? Me? Clay. On. Us. Hell yeah. Shouts out to my Greeks. Mikleanos. Montrose, written by Claire Mikleanos and read by Jay Hickman.